Good evening. Welcome to day 8 of Reading Challenge. Chapter 10. When Levin went into the restaurant with Oblonsky, he could not help noticing a certain peculiarity of expression, as it were a restrained radiance about the face and whole figure of Stephen Arkadyevich. Oblonsky took off his overcoat and with his hat over one ear walked into the dining room, giving directions to the Tatar waiters who were clustered about him in evening coats, bearing napkins, bowing to the right and left to the people he met and here as every were joyously greeting acquaintances. He went up to the sideboard for a preliminary appetizer of fish and vodka and said to the painted Frenchwoman decked in ribbons, lace, and ringlets behind the counter something so amusing that even that Frenchwoman was moved to genuine laughter. Levin, for his part, refrained from taking any vodka simply because he felt such a loathing of that French movement, all made up, it seemed of false hair, powder de riz, and vinegar de toilette. He made haste to move away from her. As from the dirty place, his whole soul was filled with memories of Kitty, and there was a smile of triumph and happiness shining in his eyes. "This way, Your Excellency, please." "Your Excellency won't be disturbed here," said a particularly pertinacious, white-headed old Tatar with immense hips and coat tails gaping widely behind. "Walk in, Your Excellency," he said to Levin. By way of showing his respect to Stephen Arkadyevich, being attentive to his guest as well, instantly flinging a fresh cloth over the round table under the bronze chandelier, though it already had a tablecloth on it, he pushed up velvet chairs and came to a standstill before Stephen Arkadyevich with a napkin and a bill of fare in his hand, awaiting his commands. "If you prefer it, Your Excellency, a private room will be free directly. Prince Glolistin with a lady. Fresh oysters have come in." "Ah, oysters." Stephen Arkadyevich became thoughtful. "How if we were to change our program, Levin?" he said, keeping his fingers on the bill of fare, and his face expressed seriously hesitation. "Are the oysters good?" "Mine now?" "They are Flensburg, Your Excellency. We have no Ostend." "Flensburg will do. But are they fresh?" "Only arrived yesterday." "Well then, how if we were to begin with oysters and so change the whole program, eh?" "It's all the same to me. I should like cabbage soup and porridge better than anything. But of course, there's nothing like that here." "Porridge a la rose, Your Honor would like," said the Tatar, bending down to Levin like a nurse speaking to a child. "No, joking about. Whatever you choose is sure to be good. I have been skating and am hungry. And don't imagine," he added, detecting a look of dissatisfaction on Oblonsky's face, "that I shan't appreciate your choice. I am fond of good things." "I should hope so. After all, it's one of the pleasure of life," said Stephen Arkadyevich. "Well then, my friend, you give us two, or better say three, dozen oysters, clear soup with vegetables." "Printanier," prompted the Tatar, but Stephen Arkadyevich apparently did not care to allow him the satisfaction of giving the French name of the dishes. "With vegetables in it, you know, then turbot with thick sauce, then roast beef, and mind if it's good. Less, yes, and capons perhaps, and the sweets." The Tatar, recollecting that it was Stephen Arkadyevich's way not to call the dishes by the names in the French bill of fare, did not repeat them after him, but could not resist rehearsing the whole menu to himself according to the bill. "Soup, printanier, turbot, sauce, bumericaris, poulard," and then instantly, as though worked by springs, laying down one bound bill of fare, he took up another, the list of wines, and submitted it to Stephen Arkadyevich. "What shall we drink?" "What do you like? Only not too much champagne?" said Levin. "What to start with?" "You're right though, I dare say. Do you like the white seal?" "Cachet blanc," prompted the Tartar. "Very well then, give us that brand with the oysters, and then we'll see." "Yes, sir. And what table wine?" "You can give us nudes." "Oh no, better the classic Chablis." "Yes, sir. And your cheese, Your Excellency?" "Oh yes, Parmesan." Or would you like another? No, it's all the same to me, said Levin, unable to suppress a smile. And the tartar ran off with the flying coattails and in 5 minutes darted in with a dish of opened oysters on mother of pearl shells and a bottle between his fingers. Stephen Arkadyevich crushed the starchy napkin, tucked it into his waistcoat, and settling his arms comfortably started on the oysters. Not bad, he said, stripping the oysters from the pearly shell with a silver fork and salivating them one after another. Not bad, he repeated, turning his dewy, brilliant eyes from Levin to the Tatar. Levin ate the oysters indeed, though white bread and cheese would have pleased him better. But he was admiring Oblonsky. Even the Tatar, uncorking the bottle and pouring the sparkling wine into the delicate glasses, glanced at Stephen Arkadyevich and settled his white cravat with a perceptible smile of satisfaction. "You don't care much for oysters, do you?" said Stephen Arkadyevich, emptying his wine glass. "Or you are worried about something, eh?" He wanted Levin to be in good spirits, but it was not that Levin was not in good spirits. He was ill at ease with what he had in his hold. He felt sore and uncomfortable in the restaurant. In the midst of private rooms when men were dining with ladies, in all this fuss and bustle, the surrounding of bronzes, looking glasses, gas and waiters, all of it was offensive to him. He was afraid of slaying what his soul was brimful of. Yes, I am. But besides, all this bothers me, he said. You can't conceive how queer it all seemed to a country person like me. As queer as the gentleman's nails I saw at your place. Yes, I saw how much interested you were in poor Greenwich nails, said Stephen Arkadyevich, laughing. It's too much for me, responded Levin. Do try now and put yourself in my place. Take the points of views of a country person. We in the country try to bring our hands into such a state as will be most convenient for working with. So we cut our nails, sometimes we turn up our sleeves, and here people purposely let their nails grow as long as they will, and link on small saucers by way of studs so that they can do nothing with their hands. Stephen Arkadyevich smiled gaily. Oh yes, that's just a sign that he has no need to do coarse work. His work is with the mind. Maybe, but still it's queer to me. Just as at this moment it seems queer to me that we country folks try to get our meals over as soon as we can, so as to be ready for our work. While here are we trying to drag out our meals as long as possible and with that object eating oysters. Why, of course, objected Stephen Arkovich. But that's just the aim of civilization to make everything a source of enjoyment. Well, if that's its aim, I'd rather be a savage, and so you are a savage. All you Levins are savage, Levin sighed. He remembered his brother Nikolai and felt ashamed and sore, and he scowled. But Oblonsky began speaking of a subject which at once drew his attention. "Oh, I say, are you going tonight to our pupil, the Shuttburgis?" I mean, he said, his eyes sparkling significantly as he pushed away the empty rough shells and drew the cheese towards him. "Yes, I shall certainly go," replied Levin, though I fancied the princess was not very warm in her invitation. "What nonsense! That's her manner. Come, boy, the soup. That's her manner. Grand dame," said Stephen Arkadyevich. "I'm coming. I'm coming too, but I have to go to the Countess Bonina's rehearsal." "Come, isn't it true that you are a savage? How do you explain the sudden way in which you vanished from Moscow? The Shachevskis were continually asking me about you, as though I ought to know. The only thing I know is that you always do what no one else does." "Yes," said Levin, slowly and with emotion, "you are right. I am a savage. Only my savageness is not in having gone away, but in coming now. Now I have come." "Oh, what a lucky fellow you are," broke in Stephen Arkadyevich, looking into Levin's eyes. "Why, I know a gallant steed by token sure, and by his eyes I know a youth in love," declaimed Stephen Arkadyevich. "Everything is before you. Why, is it over for you already?" "No, not over exactly, but the future is yours, and the present is mine, and the present, well, it's not all that it might be." "How so?" "Oh, things go wrong. But I don't want to talk of myself, and besides, I can't explain it all," said Stephen Arkadyevich. "Well, why have you come to Moscow then?" "Hi, take away," he called to that Tatar. "You guess," responded Levin, his eyes like deep wells of light fixed on Stephen Arkadyevich. "I guess, but I can't be the first to talk about it. You can see by that whether I guess right or wrong, said Stephen Arkadyevich, gazing at Levin with a subtle smile. Well, and what have you to say to me? Said Levin in a quivering voice, feeling that all the muscles of his face were quivering too. How do you look at the question? Stephen Arkadyevich slowly emptied his glass of chablis, never taking his eyes off Levin. I said Stephen Arkadyevich, there's nothing I desire so much as that nothing. It would be the best thing that could be. But you are not making a mistake. You know what we are speaking of, said Levin, piercing him with his eyes. You think it's possible. I think it's possible. Why not possible? No. Do you really think it's possible? No. Tell me all you think. Oh, but if refusals in store for me, indeed I feel sure. Why should you think that? Stephen Arkadyevich, smiling at his excitement. It seems so to me sometimes that it will be awful for me and for her too. Oh well, anyway, there's nothing awful in it for a girl. Every girl's proud of an offer. Yes, every girl, but not she. Stephen Arkadyevich smiled. He so well knew that feeling of Levin's that for him all the girls in the world were divided into two classes. One class, all the girls in the world except her, and those girls with all sorts of human weaknesses and very ordinary girls. The other class, she alone, having no weaknesses of any sort and higher than all humanity. Stay, take some sauce, he said, holding back Levin's hand as it pushed away with the sauce. Levin obediently helped himself to sauce, but would not let Stephen Arkadyevich go on with his dinner. No, stop a minute, he said. You must understand that it's a question of life and death for me. I have never spoken to any one of this, and there's no one I could speak of it to. Expect except you. You know we are utterly unlike each other, different tastes and views and everything. But I know you are fond of me and understand me, and that's why I like you awfully. But for God's sake, be quite straight to forward with me. I tell you what I think, said Stephen Arkadyevich, smiling. But I will say more. My wife is a wonderful woman. Stephen Arkadyevich sighed, remembering his position with his wife, and after a moment's silence resumed. She has a gift of foreseeing things. She sees right through people. But that's not all. She knows what will come to pass, especially in the way of marriages. She foretold, for instance, that Princess Shahoskaya would marry Brendel. No one would believe it, but it came to pass, and she's on your side. How do you mean? It's not only that she likes you. She says that Kitty is certain to be your wife. At these words, Levin's face suddenly lighted up with a smile not far from tears of emotion. She says that? Cried Levin. I always said she was exquisite, your wife. That's enough. Enough said about it. He said, getting up from his seat. All right, but do sit down. But Levin could not sit down. He walked with his firm tread twice up and down the little cage of a room, blinked his eyelids that his tears might not fall, and only then sat down to the table. You must understand, said he. It's not love. I have been in love, but it's not that. It's not my feeling, but a sort of force outside me has taken possession of me. I went away, you see, because I made up my mind that it could never be. You understand, as a happiness that does not come on earth. But I have struggled with myself. I see there's no living without it. And it must be settled. What did you go away for? Stop a minute. The thought that come crowding now on one. The thoughts that come crowding on one. The questions one must ask oneself. Listen, you can't imagine what you have done for me by what you said. I'm so happy that I've become positively hateful. I've forgotten everything. I heard today that my brother Nikolai, he's here. I had even forgotten him. It seems to me that he is happy too. It's a sort of madness. But one thing's awful. Here, you have been married. You know the feeling. It's awful that we all, with a past, not of love, but of sins, are brought all at once so near to a creature pure and innocent. It's loathsome. And that's why one can't help feeling oneself unworthy. Oh, well, you have not many sins on your conscience. Alas, all the same, said Levin. When with loathing I go over my life, I shudder and curse and bitterly regret it. Yes. What would you have? The world's made so? Said Stephen Arkadyevich. The one comfort is like that prayer, which I always liked. Forgive me not according to my unworthiness, but according to thy loving kindness. That's the only way she can forgive me. Chapter 11. Levin emptied his glass, and they were silent for a while. There's one other thing I ought to tell you. Do you know Vronsky? Stephen Arkadyevich said Levin. No, I don't. Why do you ask? Give us another bottle. Stephen Arkadyevich directed the Tatar, who was filling up their glasses and fidgeting around them just when he was not wanted. Why you ought to know Vronsky is that he is one of your rivals? Who's Vronsky? Said Levin, and his face was suddenly transformed from the look of childlike ecstasy, which Oblonsky had just been admiring, to an angry and unpleasant expression. Vronsky is one of the son of Count Kirill Ivanovich Vronsky, and one of the finest specimens of the gilded youth of Petersburg. I made his acquaintance in Tver when I was there on official business, and he came there for the levy of recruits. Fearfully rich, handsome, great connections, and 8-day camp, and with all that, a very nice, good natured fellow. But he is more than simply a good natured fellow, as I have found out here. He is a cultivated man too, and very intelligent. He is a man who will make this mark. Levin scowled and was dumb. Well, he turned up here soon after you had gone, and as I can see, he's over head and ears in love with Kitty, and you know that her mother. Excuse me, but I know nothing, said Levin, frowning gloomily. And immediately he recollected his brother Nikolai and how hateful he was to have been able to forget him. You wait a bit, said Stephen Arkadyevich, smiling and touching his hand. I've told you what I know, and I repeat that in this delicate and tender matter, as far as one can conjecture, I believe the chances are in your favor. Levin dropped back in his chair. His face was pale. But I would advise you to settle the things as soon as may be, pursued Oblonsky, filling up his glass. No thanks, I can't drink any more, said Levin, pushing away his glass. I shall be drunk. Come, tell me, how are you getting on? He went on, obviously anxious to change the conversation. One word more. In any case, I advise you to settle the question soon. Tonight, I don't advise you to speak, said Stephen Arkadyevich. Go round tomorrow morning, make an offer in due form, and God bless you. Oh, do you still think of coming to me for some shooting? Come next spring, do, said Levin. Now his whole soul was full of remorse that he had begun this conversation with Stephen Argravation. A feeling such as his was profaned by talk of the rivalry of some Petersburg officer, of the superposition and the counsels of Stephen Argravich. Stephen Argravich smiled. He knew what was passing in Levin's soul. I will come someday, he said, but women, my boy, they are the pivot everything turns upon. Things are in a bad way with me, very bad, and it's all through women. Women, women. Tell me frankly now. He pursued. He pursued, picking up a cigar and keeping one hand on his cloth. Give me your advice. Why? What is it? I will tell you. Suppose you are married. You love your wife, but you are fascinated by another woman. Excuse me, but I am absolutely unable to comprehend how, just as I can't comprehend how I could now after my dinner go straight to a baker's shop and steal a roll. Stephen Arkadyev's eyes sparkled more than usual. Why not? A roll will sometimes smell so good one can't resist it. As he said this, Stephen Arkadyevich smiled subtly. Levin too could not help smiling. Yes, but joking apart, resumed Stephen Arkadyevich, you must understand that the woman is a sweet, gentle, loving creature, pure and lonely, and has sacrificed everything. Now, when the thing's done, don't you see, can one possibly cast her off? Even supposing one parts from her so as not to break up one's family life, still can one help feeling for her, settling her on her feet, softening her lot? Well, you must excuse me though. You know, to me, all women are divided into two classes. At least, no. Truer to say, there are women and there are. I have never seen exquisite born beings, and I never shall see them. But such creatures as that painted French woman at the counter with the ringlets are vermin to my mind, and all fallen women are the same. But the Magdalene, Oh, drop that. Christ would never have said those words if he had known how they would be abused. Of all the gospel, those words are the only ones remembered. However, I am not saying so much what I think was what I feel. I have a loathing for fallen women. You are afraid of spiders, and I of these vermin. Most likely, you have not made a study of spiders, and don't know their character. And so it is with me. It's very well for you to talk like that. It's very much like that gentleman in Dickens who used to fling all difficult questions over his right shoulder. But to deny the fact is no answer. What's to be done? You tell me that. What's to be done? Your wife gets older. While you are full of life before you have time to look around, you feel that you can't love your wife with love. However much may esteem her, and then all at once love turns up, and you are done for. Done for. Stephen Argyros said with a very despair. Levin half smiled. Yes, you are done for, resumed Oblonsky. But what's to be done? Don't steal rolls. Stephen Argyros laughed outright. Oh, moralist. But you must understand, there are two women. One insists only on her rights, and those rights are your love, which you can't give her. And the other sacrifices everything for you and asks for nothing. What are you to do? How are you to act? There's a fearful tragedy in it. If you care for my profession of faith as regards that, I will tell you that I don't believe there was any tragedy about it. And this is why, to my mind, love, both the sort of love which you remember Plato defines in his blanket, served as the test of man. Some men only understand one sort, and some only the other. And those who only know the Platonic love have no need to talk of tragedy. In such love, there can be no sort of tragedy. I am such obliged for the gratification, my humble respects. That's all the tragedy. And in Platonic love, there can be no tragedy, because in that love, all is clear and pure. Because at that instant, Levin recollected his own sins and the inner conflict he had lived through. And he added unexpectedly, but perhaps you're right, very likely, I don't know. I don't know. It's this, don't you see? Said Stephen Arkadevich. You're very much all of a piece. That's your strong point and you're failing. You have a character that's all of a piece, and you want the whole of life to be a piece too. But that's not how it is. You despise public official work because you want the reality to be invariably corresponding all the time while with the aim. And that's not how it is. You want a man's work too, always to have a defined aim, and love and family life. Always to be undivided, and that's not how it is. All the variety, all the charm, all the beauty of life is made up of light and shadow. Levin sighed and made no reply. He was thinking of his own affairs and did not hear Oblonsky. And suddenly both of them felt that though they were friends, though they had been dining and drinking together, which should have drawn them closer. Yet each was thinking only of his own affairs, and they had nothing to do with one another. Oblonsky had more than once experienced this extreme sense of aloofness instead of intimacy coming on after dinner, and he knew what to do in such cases. Bill, he called, and he went into the next room where he promptly came across an 8-day camp of his acquaintance and dropped into conversation with him about an actress and a hair protector. And at once in the conversation with the 8-day camp, Oblonsky had a sense of relaxation and relief after the conversation with Levin, which always put him to too great a mental and spiritual strain. When the Tartar appeared with a bill for 26 rubles and odd kopecks, besides a tip for himself, Levin, who would another time have been horrified like any one from the country, at this share of 14 rubles, did not notice it, paid, and set off homewards to dress and go to the Shacharbis there to decide his fate. Thanks for the day. We'll see tomorrow.